I'm going to get us started here. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's workshop. Today, we're joined by George Jackson, president of the Grant Professionals Association Michigan chapter and longtime fundraising professional. He will be taking us on a deep dive into the world of project development, which, as all grant professionals know, is one of the many things that often falls under our jurisdiction, even if it's not, explicitly part of the role. And we see this all the time. Nonprofits run great programs, but when it comes to getting them funded, there's a struggle there with turning some of that work into tangible projects. So if you're constantly chasing down details from busy teams, trying to define strong and compelling metrics, today's workshop is the perfect place to be. And for any of our first timers, I know there's a few of you in the room today, Instrumentl is the most loved all-in-one grants platform for prospecting, tracking, and management. And we currently help over 4,000 nonprofits and grant consultants save time in finding and applying for more grants. Some quick housekeeping items. This event is about 60 minutes long. This includes a presentation from George as well as a live Q&A at the end. So if you have questions throughout, please put them in the chat box. I'm going to be keeping track of all questions and we'll try to get through as many as possible at the end. This event is being recorded, so you'll get that delivered to your inbox. If you miss something or if you have to hop halfway through, you will be able to watch it back. And I want to make sure you are feeling free to take care of your personal needs during our event. So if you have to grab a snack or step away for a quick break, you do you. We will be right here. But I do want you to stick around till the end because in classic Instrumentl fashion, you can win tomorrow's coffee on us with a raffle that we're going to have at the end of the event. And that is not all you have the chance to walk away with. Give me a thumbs up or a yes in the chat if your organization could use a couple more good fit grant opportunities on your radar. Kent says yes. We'll be talking all about frameworks to get projects funded. And when it comes time, we need grants for that, right? So after today's hour-long workshop, you'll have that brand new customizable framework to apply in your project development process, and we'll also make sure we can send you away with some grant resources. So for any of our first timers, you'll get the chance to dive into Instrumentl at the end of the webinar and get your hands on a list of good fit grant opportunities, which is something we can never really have enough of, right? And before we dive into it, just to quickly introduce myself for any of you who haven't already seen me, my name's Nia. I am an events and community manager here at Instrumentl, and my job is to develop helpful and educational events like this one to share with our community. And like I mentioned, I actually come from the nonprofit world. I worked in rainforest conservation and research prior to joining Instrumentl, so I love getting to hang out with all of you nonprofit professionals. This is like my space. And I actually want to introduce our expert in the room because it is not me. We are joined today by George Jackson. I am so excited to welcome him to the Instrumentl stage for the first time. George is a longtime fundraiser working with nonprofits, universities, and the public service sector. His career encompasses a ton of areas. We're talking environmental conservation, community development, STEM education, youth development. George actually specializes in institutional giving, which includes prospect research, proposal development, post-award compliance, and reporting for foundations, corporate grants, and state and federal funding. So there is a lot under his belt here that we're going to be hitting on today. He's also a grants coach and consultant, offering individual and group training sessions to help grant seekers enhance their nonprofit's funding strategy. And like I already mentioned, George serves as the current chapter president and founding member of the GPA Michigan chapter. So folks, if you have questions about GPA Michigan, George is the person to reach out to. He's also a member of AFP Greater Detroit and serves on the chapter's board of directors. And with that, I'm going to turn the stage over to George.
Great, thank you, Nia. I really appreciate that great introduction. First, I want to say thanks to you, Nia, and to Instrumentl for inviting me uh, to have the opportunity to share this information with Instrumentl and the webinar group. I really appreciate it. So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are, where you're joining us from. Again, my name is George Jackson, and I am the founder of GrantVantage Solutions. And I'm really glad to have you here for today's session, uh, titled From Services to Strategy, Building Measurable Fundable Projects. I want to take a moment to introduce myself to you a little bit more and give you some context for today's session. Uh, why this topic matters to me and why I'm excited to share it with you. As it's been said before, I've been in the grant writing and nonprofit development field for many years, over 15 years. And during that time, I've worked across a wide range of organizations, from national advocacy groups in Washington, D.C., to grassroots nonprofits here in Michigan. I've written and managed grants for everything from education and science outreach to energy efficiency, youth development, among others. Most recently, I've served as the Associate Director of Grants Management, where I worked with uh, developing and raising money for STEAM and STEM education programs and museum exhibitions here in Detroit. Here, I oversaw a comprehensive grant strategy that supports everything from STEM programming to museum exhibitions, working cross-departmentally to build relationships, manage reporting, and of course, bring in funding. As I mentioned before, I also run a consulting practice, Grant Vantage Solutions, where I work with nonprofits of all sizes to strengthen their grant systems, design strategic projects, and craft competitive proposals. Um, I'm also a proud grant professional certified grant writer, or GPC. As Nia said, I also serve as the current president of the Michigan chapter of the Grant Professionals Association, and I'm on the board of directors for AFP Greater Detroit. So throughout my career, I've seen one challenge I've seen over and over is this. Organizations do great work, but they often struggle to communicate that work in strategic, funder-friendly terms. They're strong on services, but fuzzy on projects. And that's where we lose momentum a lot of times, and we can miss out on potential funding. This webinar was born out of that very problem. Grant professionals like my colleague, Mark Goldstein, who I'll talk a little bit more about in a later slide, and others have worked to develop tools such as a project design dashboard to help teams move from vague service descriptions to strong, measurable, fundable projects. Today, I'm going to walk you through the thinking behind such a tool and how it works and how it's helping, or it can help organizations turn their day-to-day operations into compelling stories of impact. So let's dig in. Next slide, yeah. So just a quick mention about GPCI competencies. I know my GPA members and GPCs who may be on this call would be interested in this. So today's talk should cover at least 4 GPCI competencies. Number 2, organizational development as it pertains to grant seeking. Third competency, strategies for effective program and project design. Also, methods and strategies that cultivate, maintain relationships between fund seeking and the recipient organizations and funders, and ability to write a convincing case for funding. So these are hopefully some things that you'll get out of this presentation today. Next slide, please. So let's begin with the basic truth about nonprofit work. Organizations earn tax-exempt status by providing public benefit. But public benefit isn't just a feel-good phrase. It has to be demonstrated, and that means measured. Impact is proven through data. data comes from services or activities, and services are implemented by your frontline providers, backed by executive leadership. Next slide, please. But here's the tension. Funders often want to invest in projects, which you could describe as being discrete, strategic initiatives with timelines, outcomes, and measurable change. But nonprofits tend to describe what they do in terms of services, the day-to-day work, often ongoing, open-ended, and often reactive. So while staff are describing programs they care deeply about, we as grant professionals are tasked with translating that work into projects that will catch a funder's eye. Next slide, please. So we can find ourselves in a little bit of a quandary. Let's be real. How many of us are handed a neat, tidy case for support for every new grant opportunity? Exactly. Probably not many of us. For most of us, we work at organizations or we help client organizations where information tends to live in people's heads or in their handwritten notes on their desks or uh, or other methods of recording things. And when we're under deadline, we're scrambling to get program details, outcome data, and even budgets, program budgets. It's not that staff don't care. They absolutely do. They're just busy doing the work. And pausing for strategic planning, it can kind of feel like a luxury that they can't afford. So what do we do as grant professionals or fundraisers? We we become translators, negotiators, and creative writers all at once. But after years of doing things this way, uh, and I'm sure many other grant professionals or practitioners, started to ask ourselves or think to ourselves, is there a better way to do this work? Next slide, please. So uh, after thinking about these things, I decided to look for a tool. I needed something for creating a case for support. And creating a case for support can be very complex. Developing metrics and budgets uh, oftentimes needs to be done quickly and hopefully painlessly. I also wanted a tool to be relatively simple and practical, something that could be of use in a trusty Excel spreadsheet. I wanted a tool to support not only grant writing, but also measurement and strategic planning. I've often found that organization staff, even many grant professionals, lack solid grounding in case development and can struggle in this endeavor. And I know I have, certainly. So some of the things that we look for, I think that we need are creating consistency across our grant applications. We want to support broader organizational planning and evaluation. So in my search or in my research, I searched all kinds of different forums like GPA's Grant Zone, and I asked colleagues if something like this existed. and not a whole lot really met the need. But that is until I came across an article in the GPA Journal by my now friend and colleague, Mark Goldstein, a fundraising consultant from Arden, North Carolina, who developed a dashboard tool that I want to introduce to you and walk you through today. I reached out to Mark, who was so gracious in talking with me about the dashboard tool in detail, and he shared his insights in developing it. And I find it to be very practical, scalable, and adaptable. Um, and yes, in a tool like this, and like in many other tools, yes, there is an upfront time investment, but it saves you hours later and improves your chances in securing funding. Next slide, please. So, problems that I aim to solve um, under this topic. Here are a few of the core problems that we felt needed to be addressed, and I think many of you can uh, will be nodding your head at these, and hopefully these will be familiar to you. So, uh, needing a single point of truth, that is, one place where everyone could go to understand a project, its goals, activities, and the budget. Application accuracy. I wanted to get past hunting through past proposals to remember what we promised to do for a particular project or service. Another core issue, clear, usable data. I need data that serves grant writing, reporting, and internal performance reviews. Also, culture change. Uh, that is moving from reactive to strategic, moving from we need money for this program to here's the change we can make with the right investment. So, so sort of changing that narrative a little bit, both internally in our organizations and in our fundraising and grants processes. Uh, translator functions, or basically helping staff describe what they do in a way that resonates with funders. Another issue, fiscal clarity. Making budgets part of the program design, not an afterthought. And also better sharing, or better information sharing. Having a living document accessible and useful to everyone involved. Next slide, please. So here it's a screenshot of a dashboard that that my friend Mark shared with me, and that I've been looking at and working on developing for my own for my own uses, for my own practices. So this dashboard is a planning tool designed to establish a single source of data projection that is necessary in order to complete requests for funding. It's constructed in the recognition that funders primarily support programs with outcomes, objectives, and budgets, not individual services or vague aims. The dashboard is more effective when objectives, outcomes, and services are determined collaboratively by senior staff and line staff with board participation or approval. So it's most effective under those circumstances. And also the dashboard promotes organizational consistency and stewardship. And I do want to point out some of the language that I use here for things like out outcomes, objectives, and things like that. I'm sure will sound familiar to most of you, where sometimes or in the past, and I've used many logic models. So it's sort of the in the world of logic model language, but this dashboard can present a new, more usable way of, or or better digestible way of quantifying some of the work and the things that we need to know, that we want to know about the programs and projects that we're trying to get funded. So next slide, please. Methods. So let's talk a little bit more about the dashboard itself. Um, this work proves its value as dashboard users experience aha moments when measurable projects materialize. Most of the work, as I said, occurs up front, but in years that follow, the dashboard can be updated prior to each fiscal year or as needed throughout the year. The dashboard typically takes several focused planning sessions to complete. Think of it as a structured planning tool that breaks down project development into manageable parts. There are 4 key steps. Grant professionals fill in what's known. Maybe you already have goals or activities, and that's great. You can start there. Also, we want to be able to highlight what's missing. Often the gaps show you exactly what conversations need to happen. Reinforcing benefits can help colleagues see how this tool supports them, and not just us as grant professionals or fundraising professionals. Uh, Add the budget last. By the time you get here, the project has taken shape and the budget aligns naturally with the scope and goals. The dashboard is meant to be collaborative, but it can also be used solo. Uh, it's as useful for early stage planning as it is for mid-year adjustments. Next slide, please. So I wanted to kind of maybe shift gears a little bit, and then we'll go back to the specifics in the tool. But I wanted to kind of add some bonus context about being strategic in planning and communicating your services. And I'm hoping that this will kind of help wrap your mind or frame your mind around the what things we want to see when we work on tools such as this. So now that we've talked about the logic behind moving from services to strategy, let's walk through a real world planning framework that illustrates how this shift happens and why it matters. Now, this approach, this is a shortened approach from that uh, that I learned from colleagues uh, in this approach. So it comes from a resource called a bonus 10-step planning method, and this is courtesy of my friend Mark Goldstein in North Carolina. And for this presentation, I sort of summarize it into 4 steps. So just for your own learning knowledge. So and while it's The planning method is not tied to one specific organization. It's a clear example of the kind of intentionality required to design measurable, fundable projects. Next slide, please. Planning steps. So, step one, you want you want to be able to define the real need. This is where everything starts in the statement of need. And this is where many proposals tend to fall apart because they confuse internal wants with community facing problems. For example, saying we need more staff or we need a new building isn't a compelling need. Those are internal issues. Funders care about the external problem you are trying to solve, like unemployment in your community, a literacy gap, or lack of healthcare access. A well defined need is, as I said, external and community centered, measurable and documentable, undeniable and widely relevant, and not just not just the absence of a service, but the impact of that absence. For instance, the problem isn't that there are no workshops, it's that people lack skills to secure living wage jobs. And that's measurable, that's documentable, and that's fundable. Step two, develop a thoughtful strategy. Once the need is clear, you can design a strategy not just as a collection of tasks, but a long term leadership supported plan. Let's say the need is that low income adults in a rural community are underemployed because of low digital literacy. One strategy might be to launch a mobile tech lab that provides digital skills training across several counties. A strong strategy should be premeditated and clear. It should be mission aligned, supported by leadership, practical and defensible. It should be something your organization chooses because it makes the most sense after exploring alternatives and doing the homework. The third step is defining the case elements. With the need and strategy in place, we can move into the plan phase. Here, you define everything that gives a project structure. Again, we talk about terms such as objectives or what will you do? Common question there, how many people will be served? Outcomes. What will change for people that you serve? You want to be thinking about indicators. How will you change what happened? Scope. What activities, resources, and purchases are needed? Budget. How much will it cost? And how is that to be calculated? You want to be thinking about methods. What's the timeline and who's responsible for implementation? Evaluation. How will you track progress and share results? And sustainability. What happens after the grant ends? So, and in this step, this is where the project becomes real. And once these elements are in place, your proposal can practically write itself. And lastly, step four, stewardship after the award. And here's the final piece that often gets overlooked. What happens after you get the grant, right? So role and responsibilities need to be clear. The leadership ensures the plan matches the grant contract and communicates the win internally. Project managers reviews the proposal, proposal details and launches the work. The grant manager ensures reporting, tracking, and evaluation systems are in place. If this isn't done, you risk under delivering, missing key metrics, or losing funder interest. So the key takeaway here in these last few points that I've made is that a good idea isn't enough. You need a clear problem, smart strategy, and a structured plan to get funders on board. That's why tools like the dashboard and planning processes like this one are so valuable. They force us to slow down, ask the right questions, and build fundable, sustainable projects that actually make an impact. Next slide, please. So we're on evaluation, and I wanted to take a couple minutes to spend a little more time on this because I found, at least in my practice, that a lot of times we can create projects and programs and even intend on doing thorough and informative evaluation. But sometimes that can fall by the wayside in our busy day to day. We're just trying to get these things done, get the money in, and just try to get things to run smoothly. So one of the things that I really liked about this tool was about being able to add evaluation into the same form and format as I think you should be able to see on the current slide, and we'll zoom in on the evaluation part on the next slide as well. But I want to talk a little bit about this. So, off, like I said, so for evaluation, it can often be a sore spot in project design, right? Using the dashboard, it encourages you to, once again, define your outputs, what you'll do, outcomes, what change you anticipate, and indicators, how you'll know. For example, if your project trains 100 youth, what's the outcome? Is it increased confidence? Is it higher graduation rates? Less involvement in the juvenile justice system? I mean, it could be a great many things depending on your project and your program and your organization. The dashboard makes you clarify these before you start writing or before you start implementing. And that makes your grant stronger and your organization smarter. Next slide, please. And so, like I said, I wanted to just kind of zoom in on the adding evaluation, a closer view, just so you can see that how useful and practical it can be integrating these questions and these types of data recording right alongside your planning and your implementation. So I really like the way that this is laid out because it's in one place where you can look and check progress or monitoring or use it as a mid-project reporting tool to your leadership or your board of directors. It's along with all the other critical project information in one document. And that's one of the probably the thing I most like about this approach with having a dashboard is having things in one place that is available at a moment's notice to be able to look up and make good decisions about and act on. Next slide, please. So uh, going into like I guess next steps about using and implementing a dashboard like this. So for me, I'm using this I'm using this tool. I'm beginning to use this tool with client organizations, and I'm field testing and refining it as I go. So using the dashboard in turning vague or ongoing services into compelling, time-specific projects is of immense value to uh, us as grant professionals, but also to the larger organization and also to the frontline staff who are implementing these services. The dashboard, it helps personnel clarify and document project measurement, helping organizations visualize what the project expansions can bring. So for me, moving forward, so next steps for me in the continuing to develop and adapt dashboards such as this, I plan to work with uh, uh, other really great grant professionals like my friend Mark in North Carolina uh, to uh, to continue honing this tools like this by improving the dashboard's formatting for greater ease of use, uh, creating concise. I'd like to create a concise, user-friendly guide to accompany dashboards as I use them with client organizations. And also, I plan to encourage organizations to adopt it annually as part of their regular planning cycle. So this isn't just a grant tool; it's a capacity building tool, and it's designed to be scalable. Whether you're a team of one or a staff of 200. So at present, the process has been mostly been implemented at a casual pace, which reduces the stress of the planning process, but it can't. But doing it in a casual way can jeopardize timely completion. But I intend to use it more broadly with organizations going forward. Next slide, please. So I just want to send out a special shout out to a couple of names that I mentioned before in the development of this presentation. So I want to give a shout out to Mark Goldstein of Communication Mark. And you can see his information there, fundraising solutions for nonprofits. And I also want to give a shout out to my good friend and colleague, Jabari Lane, who's here in Detroit, who helped me to design this presentation today. Much thanks to him and his efforts in this. Um, and uh, and just to close out my part of this presentation, and I know Nia will have some other items to share with you, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. So closing out, well, we've covered a lot today. The tension between services and fundable projects, the logic behind project design. Uh, we've looked We found a practical tool to ease friction and to improve outcomes. And at the end of the day, grant writing is more than persuasion, it's translation. And with the right process, you can move from reacting to planning. You can move from reacting to planning, from surviving to thriving. And if you're interested in talking with me more about this and other tools, uh, there'll be some contact information at the end of this presentation. And I want to say thank you so much for your time and your commitment to the work. Keep going. You're doing great things out there. And I'll turn it back over to Nia.
Thank you, George. And we have a lot of questions that I've been collecting. Um, Stephanie, Stephanie and Lynn, two more questions just came in. I'm going to make a quick note of those, and we are going to circle back to those in about a minute or two. Let me just note down these questions. And I promised you all some good fit grants and a raffle. So I want to make sure we get to that before I wrap us up here. So for the next 2 minutes, I invite any of our first timers to roll up your sleeves while we let George catch a breath and get a sip of water before we turn back to our Q&A. So any of our first timers, I invite you to dive into our database of 23,000 grants today. For any of you already using Instrumentl, please hang tight. Like I said, we'll be at our Q&A in about 2 minutes here. So just give George a quick breather. For anybody who hasn't tried Instrumentl, here is a very special link that you can click. I just put it in the chat. It's going to let you get set up on Instrumentl and go directly into our database without having to talk to one of our onboarding strategists, which is really fun. That means literally in the next 2 minutes, you can get matched with hundreds of grant opportunities. Michelle says Instrumentl is amazing. I love the love, Michelle. The reason we're bringing this up right now is because as you develop your project frameworks and you implement this dashboard, you're going to have all these metrics around your projects. Everything's going to become fundable. You need grants, right? So once you click that link, it's going to ask for some very basic information about your organization to get you started. It'll sign you up for a free 2-week trial. There's no strings attached, no credit card, nothing like that. You literally just sign up and then you have Instrumentl for 2 whole weeks. Once you fill out that basic information on that slide, you're going to see a page like this. You can schedule a call with a grant expert who can guide you through the Instrumentl platform, or you can actually skip that. At the bottom, you see it says skip. So you can actually totally skip that step, go right into the platform. And I'm going to do a 1-minute walkthrough here of what setting up a project looks like so you can get those matches. And then we're going to turn to our Q&A. So the first thing you're going to do is select your location. And the reason this is important is because it matches you with grants that are both national in scope and also specific to your county. So you're looking for those super local funders as well. You'll select your fiscal year. This is just to help Instrumentl get a sense of, what timeline are you operating on? And then once you've done that, you're going to set up a project. This is specific to one of your ongoing projects, not your organization as a whole. So for my example, I'm going to do a history education program at my nonprofit. And you'll set up who you're working with. So if you're working with a school or a museum, you can indicate those because you'll be eligible for grants that are specific to those, right? If you have partners there. I'm not a faith-based organization, but this is where you can indicate if you are. And then again, we're going to select the location. So this is just making sure we get those huge funders like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And we're also getting the really local funders that are interested in just your city or just your county. And then you're going to put in your fields of work. So this is Instrumentl's backbone. If you're using the new Instrumentl, you're actually going to just paste in your project description, and AI is going to automatically tell you what main keywords to look for. And then you can refine those and edit those, but you don't even have to do any thinking with this one. You just paste in a project description, and it says, it looks like your project works with arts and culture or youth, and it'll give you some keywords there. If you're using the old Instrumentl, you'll select them manually the way I'm doing here on my screen. And then you're going to select the size of the grant you want to see. So this one is really fun. If you're only looking for $1 million grants, you can indicate that. If you're not looking for anything above 10K because you don't want to deal with like the reporting and the application, you can indicate that. And also, of course, say what you're going to use the funding for and who you want to see funding from. And the last thing you do here is invite any colleagues. They can hop on in for free. And they can just explore Instrumentl with you. And then you are going to get matched. So let's see, I got 316 grant opportunities just from that setup right there. If you all just set it up with me in real time, I would love to hear how many you got in the chat. And for any of you who are just wrapping up setting that up, I'm going to turn it back to George and you all can listen while you finish your project setup. And George, I invite you to hop back in and let's get through some of these questions. We had quite a few. So I want to start with this one from Megan. Megan asks, oops, I did not copy Megan's question. I'm going to scroll up and find it. Megan said that most of the items that are in your dashboard, they include in logic models. So they're wondering if you can talk a little bit about the difference of this dashboard versus, certain logic models that folks may already be using. How is this one more comprehensive or more powerful?
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. So in my experience, using a tool like this, well, I'll put it this way, like I'm this is not to say that a tool like this will replace logic models. I think the logic model in the way that I use them, or the ways that I've been working with them, I tend to use logic models as a starting point a lot of times for myself, particularly for new projects or newer programs. Um, and yes, some of the elements and the questions are very similar to what we use in logic models, but I think that the real difference in using a tool like this is having having more detail in a way, or in places, or and arranged in a way where people who are not grant professionals can use this. So it's designed in a way to get right to the point of what, say, like your frontline staff needs to know at a moment's notice about the project or the programs that they're running. Um, I found that with a tool like this, um, we we can easily uh, pull pull this information side by side with evaluation, and just having ease of access to it. So the point, I think, was Megan. The point that Megan made is that it is similar in a lot of ways, but I approach it as, it's another way of presenting information, and you can where it's can be more customizable and more specific. So it's I would say that it's a tool that you need to develop, kind of knowing how you want to use it up front, and who your main audience is going to be. Whereas maybe a generic logic model might be something you might show to leadership who may not want to dig into all those details. So that's probably the best way I can describe it. But I think the the key thing here is that it's customizable for your use.
Yeah, I love that. I think the level of specificity and detail we saw in the dashboard, I think really points to that. And speaking sort of about that level of detail, Stephanie's question, is how are nonprofits who you've seen use this dashboard able to implement and fill out all of that detail while completing their daily tasks? And I think this is
Mm.
sort of pointing to that idea of, we see this dashboard and it looks kind of intimidating. There's a lot there and there's a lot to maintain, right? And obviously it's a balance of, well, once you have this dashboard, your grant writing becomes so much faster. But can you speak a little bit, George, to the process of setting up this dashboard, implementing it, and then maintaining it?
Sure. So, so in setting up this dashboard, I know, yeah, it could look intimidating to maybe like those who may not be as, uh, I guess, maybe experienced in project creating programs or designing projects. But the the way I see it is that it's it's a it's a it is a way for us as grant professionals to be able to take in information from staff, translate it, and sort of put it back out there into the form. Um, and really, I think that it's not there, or I think its purpose is not to more or less guide the work of your frontline professional, because they're going to have their own way of doing things, and the way that they record things and the way that they track things. But a tool like this can be designed as simply or as complex as you need. So I think if you don't want to like scare off or intimidate, someone who's not in in the grants process directly, um, you can just present this to them as a way for them to communicate to me or us as the grant professional, um, certain things about their projects that they think they feel we need to know. And I think it's upon us as the grant professionals to, as I said, to be able to be that translator, to be that navigator for them. So, but also ensure, discussion. You got to communicate, because you want to make sure that you have dedicated planning sessions when you're creating these things. So we as grant professionals, we cannot develop this tool in a vacuum. So maybe that's a point that I need to make more strongly. This is collaborative, right? That's the best way to use it. So I would answer Stephanie's question to be develop it together. I mean, try to make that get that time together with teams and staff to go over what these things mean and why they're important. So I would answer that in a way, uh, it should be developed collaboratively with the groups who are going to be using it and utilizing
And one of the questions we had was around that collaboration approach. I'm curious to hear, I'm sort of combining a couple questions here just because we're so short on time. So, combining a couple folks' questions here into one overarching question, and I hope I'm doing it justice here. But in your experience, either as you're using this dashboard or as you're seeing nonprofits use this dashboard, is it something that one person owns and maintains? The grant person is owning and
it.
maintaining this dashboard, or are all sorts of colleagues hopping in there and updating that data? Just because with so many columns, so many numbers, I think we also run the risk of like, well, what if somebody does it a different way, right? And then everything's skewed. So what's the hands-on, hands-off balance between the grant person and everybody else involved?
Wow, yeah, that's a great way to put that. That's a great question. So for, for me, and this is my preference. So for me, as I've used this, I've always I've typically tried to be sort of the keeper of of the document, and the one who maintains the formatting and the information that needs to go into it. So I recommend that you do need, um, although it's a collaborative and shareable document, I strongly believe you do need maybe one or two people who have the, I guess, access permissions to make informed changes and make sure that they're accurate. Um, and a lot of times that'll depend on I guess the skill levels and expertise and experience levels of the people that you're working with too, right? Because yeah, and that will vary greatly. Um, so I think it has the potential um, uh, to be, I guess, as restrictive or as open as you feel it's necessary. So again, and that'll come down to having frequent or regular discussions, frank discussions with your project team and your leadership to constantly making sure that we're on the same page about who's the owner, who's the reader, and things like that. So just got to talk to each other and plan.
Yeah, love that. I mean, it's going to be different for every team, right? And different
Mhm.
sizes of teams. We are almost at the top of the hour. So I know we have questions that we didn't get to. Beth and Jacqueline, you both just put in questions. So what I'm going to encourage folks to do is this is part of our raffle. We always encourage folks to go comment one takeaway they had. But today, feel free to also comment a question. If we didn't get to your question, leave a question on this LinkedIn post or leave your takeaway. Either way, you'll be entered into the raffle. And then I'll also tag in George, who can hop in and maybe take on some of those other questions that we didn't get to
Sure.
because we had so many. Sorry, folks. I tried to get us through a lot of them, but these are just a lot of big questions, right? So that link right there, leave a takeaway or leave your question. You will be entered into our coffee raffle. 3 of you will win coffee on us. As you exit today's event, you'll also be prompted to fill out a feedback form. This helps us know what other programs to put on in the future as well. So if you fill that out, you'll get an extra coffee raffle entry. The other thing I want to shout out is we have some fantastic events coming up, as always. For those of you who are new here, we have an event coming up on Monday that's a fan favorite. It's all about how to streamline grant management. So I would really encourage you to check that one out. And with that, I want to honor everyone's time. So I'm going to put George's contact information right here. You can find his LinkedIn and his email address. And like I said, if you have questions still, go ahead and leave it on that LinkedIn post. We'll try to get to all of them. And I want to give a huge shout out to George. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here, putting together that presentation, answering all of our questions, being so patient with us as we try to wrap our heads around this massive document, right? All this data that you're showing us. Really appreciate the presentation you did for us, George. And thank you so much again for taking the time. Folks, for all of you who tuned in, thank you so much for being here. George, any final words from you?
Yeah, just real quick. If you reach out to me, I can definitely provide you with more links to templates for this. And either original or ones that I'm working on, yeah, feel free to reach out to me and to ask me questions. And I'm also available for one-on-one and team coaching opportunities and topics like this. And I want to thank Nia and Instrumental for having me. This has been a blast. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, George. And I want to also shout out the templates that you mentioned. If you can share one of those with me, I can send it out to everyone
Absolutely.
tomorrow. And that way, everyone who's on this call
Perfect.
will be
Perfect.
able to get the template. Y'all will get the recording. George's information is on the screen once more, and I'll also include it in the email so you will know how to find George. Thank